And really, really good Seth Russell, former Baylor quarterback, joins us now on 365 Sports, the week of Iowa State, Saturday morning in Ames, Iowa, with just after 11 o'clock kick. Seth, thank you very much for your time. It's great to hear you again. Always great to have you on the show. Craig and Paul here as well. What are your thoughts about what you've seen with the Baylor passing game? Is it the wide receivers are young? Is it Chapin's a little bit maybe spooked from Brigham Young? Your thoughts?
Well, hey, guys, appreciate y'all having me on today. To be bluntly honest, I think it's a little bit of everything. I think obviously the receiving core is pretty young. I think our best receiver is a tight end right now, which is still great. I mean, Ben Sims is an amazing athlete and a great target for Chapin. I just haven't seen anybody besides, Baldwin with being a speed guy, right? Really anybody else really step up to the occasion. And, having a young quarterback, young receiving core, maybe not on the same page, whatever that is, it in my eyes, it's I know Chapin's probably pretty frustrated because I know the type of gunslinger that he wants to be, and he wants to throw the ball down the field. But, whether that, guys aren't getting in and out of their breaks the way they need to be, or running the routes too long, or Chapin getting pushed off, or seeing ghosts, as they say, with different fronts that the defense is showing. I just think it's a little bit of inexperience is causing a huge factor in a passing game.
Seth, how do you accelerate the development of those guys?
Gosh, that's a great question. Obviously you can't do anything now, right? We're in the season. It's more going to be a mentality for those guys, right? You can't force them to accelerate their development. I mean, that's something that they should have done and been doing in the off season. And now all the off season work is what transpires into this season, right? And so I think it's going to be whether it's, consolidating the playbook a little bit or even opening it up, right? Just for those guys, if it's more short passes. I know we try to take a couple deep shots and miss several of them. I think that's just guys are not comfortable running those routes. And you can see it in Chapin's ball and just kind of how he's kind of hesitating, as well as those receivers say that the corners are running the routes before the receivers can even get there. And so it's, whether it's telegraphing the routes or whatever it is, it's I don't know what they could possibly do right now to accelerate that progression.
Seth, how difficult is it to bounce back from a tough road loss in a tough environment? And that BYU game, it was just weird. The kickoff time, how late it ended, the fans were crazy. How much time does that take as a player to kind of get over that? And what does that take out of you?
Yeah, I mean, as a player, you should have been ready for that, right? You knew it was going to be a hostile environment. You know it was going to be a late kickoff. You know probably travel is going to suck, right? The food is probably going to suck. The beds are probably going to be hard. The bus is probably going to end up, showing up late to the stadium. You just have to expect those things, right? And on away games, you have to expect everything is going to not go your way. And I give credit to those guys. I mean, they fought their tail off. I mean, double overtime in Provo against a really good football team. I mean, that's just, that's the president speaks, words for how well they were at least mentally prepared. Maybe they didn't execute the way they wanted to. But to bounce back from that, I mean, it was a short week, right? With having a long game. I think they did a great job against Texas State. Obviously, it was kind of lackluster, in my opinion. At least on the offensive side, we were just better athletes than the Texas State players. But this week is going to be an immense challenge, completely different mentality. Iowa State is an amazing football team, amazingly coached by Coach Campbell up there. It's going to be a knockdown drag out. You better believe they're going to try to answer for last year.
I seem to think that Dave Aranda kind of suggested this, and then when I had a chance to visit with him a week ago Monday, after the Brigham Young game, that he may have, and maybe even Eric Mateos, weren't sure that the offensive line had that grit, that edge that made them so nearly famous last year. Have you seen that yourself?
I have, absolutely. I don't want to speak for those guys, but whenever you start getting highly touted, hey, number one, number two offensive line in the country, sometimes you can eat the cheese. And I'm not saying that they have done that, but they got to go back to, hey, who are we? How did we get here? What type of player, what type of team, what type of offensive line do we want to be? Hey, this pretty boy stuff, whatever it is, I don't know. I just think they have to reset, go back to the basics, do their job. Communication is going to be key. And just get dirty. I mean, I want to see that RVO, reliable, violent offense. I haven't seen the violent part of it yet. But that's what we saw last year, right? They were trying to set a precedent up front, and that's what they did. And they haven't done that yet this year.
Do you think we'll see more of Squirrel Williams as we get into conference season, or do you think they still have to keep him wrapped up a little bit?
Well, I mean, it's all hands on deck now. Hey, we're into the thick of it with, starting conference. These games are make or break, moving forward. We already have a loss in that column. And so, one more loss, could potentially knock us out of the playoffs. And so, obviously keeping it healthy is going to be key because, it's a game of resilience, right? Attrition, the war of attrition. That's what football is. And if guys can stay healthy along the field, I mean, hey, everybody's got to do their part, right? That's what last year was for. I mean, he had a long time to recover after his initial injury, and but they got to be smart, right? Because we have a short backfield. I know some other guys are coming in trying to make some big plays, and whether it's shaping, being able to get in the run game a little bit more, not taking unnecessary hits, or Squirrel, hey, doing what he needs to do just to move the ball down the field and get the ball in the end zone, I think is going to be really key, at least, starting this weekend moving forward through conference.
With that in mind, Seth, how big of a deal was it to see Richard Reese do what he did last week?
Oh, he stepped up, right? He stepped up to the plate. His name was called. He was ready to go. Obviously, he had some fire, a chip on his shoulder to go and do what he did, and hopefully those guys, in that room can look and see, oh crap, I'm not the starter, right? Or this guy can come in and potentially take over. I hope somebody does, right? Because I have not seen somebody take the reins on that offense yet. And so I guess the one guy that does stand out is Ben Sims, but I mean, that's expected, right? He's a senior, he's a leader on that team, but everybody else, they got to step up to the plate. And I think they're, starting to figure that out, bouncing back from BYU. I think the second half, Texas State, they were able to let loose a little bit. And just play football and do what they do best.
It does sound as if, and like you say, you're not trying to speak for the team, but you're a former player, and obviously one heck of a player. It does sound as if you're not, I don't know if you're disappointed, but you're frustrated too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're coming into the season with high expectations. Obviously we knew there were going to be a few hiccups along the way, right? Young team on defense, but they stepped up to the plate. They've done a heck of a job up to this point. On the offense, there were obviously speculations of, hey, is the playbook going to be opened up a little bit? How are the receivers going to answer to the call of, having those routes downfield? And we all know Chapin's got one heck of an arm, and he wants to use it. But if those guys aren't getting open or running the right routes, then there's not much Chapin can do. And so, whether that just overall, not a confidence factor, but just more of a, hey, understanding of the playbook, maybe some adjustments, or what they're seeing on film is not what's translating to the field. There's some frustration there, but I mean, I get it, right? Hey, there's a learning curve, and now we're in the games that really matter, right? So the film room, if they weren't already intense enough, they need to be even more intense this week moving forward.
Seth Russell, former Baylor quarterback, with us, 365 Sports, Baylor and Iowa State, Saturday morning, just after 11 o'clock. Can you ever get into an Iowa State week without thinking about what might have been?
It's you can always say what if, right? I mean, that's just kind of the name of the game, especially with life. But there's more people that come up to me that say, "Man, if you hadn't gotten hurt, we would have went all the way." It's like, oh yeah, probably. But I'm blessed to have been able to walk off the field that day, and just to be able to do the things that I do and that I enjoy today, be able to sit here with you guys, right, and talk football and be able to see it and watch it and not feel like there's any regret. I mean, literally, I left everything on the field. Everything that I could, and I know the guys that I played with, they felt that same way, But yeah, there's a little bit of a bittersweet going into Iowa State week, but the further I get away from that game, the less I think about it, which is I think is pretty cool because hey, there's other things to be not worried about, but to be thankful for, and I'm blessed to be able to be where I'm at today.
What are your thoughts about Dave Aranda?
That dude's a stud. Obviously it's pretty funny watching him when they show him on the on TV or on the jumbotron. He's just stone cold killer. I know he's going to get those coaches right. He may not show the emotion, in public, but I know he's got that intensity, in the coaches in the coaches meetings and the players meetings, and so, he did what he did last year, right, with a great football team, and I don't expect anything less from him.
Seth, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Always great, and really appreciate the truth serum you brought today, as you always do. That's Seth Russell, former Baylor quarterback, is an analyst as well for Baylor football, and we appreciate his time. This is 365 Sports. He